Welcome back. This is Julie Baranick, host of the Seven Figure Builder Show, and I'm here today with my friend Billie Sharp. Hey, Billie.
Hi, how you going?
I am fabulous, and you are joining us from the other side of the world.
I am all the way in Australia.
I love it. And I know you've got amazing expertise we're going to dig in today, but over 70,000 dedicated followers, accolades from over 300 media outlets, and you are on a mission to empower entrepreneurs, especially women. So tell us a bit about what it is that you do and what lights you up in this.
Yes, absolutely. So I actually own five businesses. One of them is my coaching business where I do public speaking and business coaching. And then I also own a marketing agency, a handyman electrical business, a cleaning and yard maintenance business, and we're building a scheduling app for service-based businesses. So we
Wow.
keep very, very, very busy. But what lights me up, like at the core of every single business, is we help people. Like that's ultimately what we do. Um, if I looked back when I was in school, my whole life, I told everyone that I wanted to be a plastic surgeon because I wanted to go and travel to third world countries and help disadvantaged children. Like that's what I really, really wanted to do. And I had some unfortunate things happen early on in my life, and that never eventuated. And what's really interesting now is when I look back at that, at the core, I just wanted to help people. And that's still what I'm doing today. So it's really interesting that I never really veered that far off my path.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. In all of those, it's helping people and helping people to enhance their lives, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So talk to us about, there's a varied pathways there in those different business ventures, but they're also very connected. So what's with the different businesses and how do they all relate?
Um, so they don't necessarily relate. When I first went into business, I started with my coaching business with
Mhm.
just the aim in my local town at the time. I was living in a small country town and I could see businesses closing. And I knew that I had the expertise to help them grow and stay open. And I was talking like mum and dad, small businesses, and that's what I'd done my whole career. So that's where I started. And then all of my clients were saying to me, like, who does your marketing? Who does your website? Who does your logo? All of that stuff. And I was like, well, I do that. And they said, can you do it for me? And I was like, no, I don't have the time. Like, wouldn't have the time to coach if I did that. And then I tried to collaborate with other agencies, and I felt like they were letting my clients down, and then I felt bad about that. Um, so then I just brought on a subcontractor to start, just a freelancer to kind of help me out. And yeah, and then it just evolved so naturally and so organically over the last 5 years, which has been amazing. Um, and so yeah, we started with like a freelancer, and now we have five full-time staff in the agency. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it's absolutely great. And then yeah, just from there, I guess seeing gaps in the local market is what really drives me. So there's a huge gap here for like handymen and electrical. There's like a lot of renovations happen in our area. So that's how that began. And my husband's also a high voltage electrician. So in Australia, you need to hold a special type of ticket to have that type of business. So very fortunate that he holds that ticket. So we could do that. And then the yard maintenance and cleaning business, it actually came up for sale. And they were a business I'd used before for my yard. And when I spoke to the owner, basically, she was just like, if I don't sell it in the next 30 days, I'm closing it. The staff lose their jobs. Like, I'm done. And I felt really just bad for the staff. I was like, these people, like, they're not going to have a job in 30 days. Like, I can't imagine what that feels like, just to be like, in 30 days' time, if this business doesn't sell, you're out on your
Yeah.
own. Like, so I said to my husband, like, we should buy this business. And he was like, no, we shouldn't. I was like, yes, we should. And I explained everything to him, and he was like, does it really matter what I say? I feel like you're just going to do it anyway. And I am.
Kind of.
I am. So yeah, we did that. And then through that, we were using scheduling apps. And because we started with three staff when we bought the business, and now we have 20 in 12 months. So it's gone quite quickly. And the scheduling systems that are available to us, we just feel like they're really falling flat. And if they're falling flat for us, I know that means they're falling flat for everyone. So yeah, we're at the final stages of the app at the moment, and then we'll test it in-house for 6 months, and then we'll go to market with it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. So you're bored is what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah, I'm always really bored. We also homeschool.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Which it's really interesting though, because I think for me, I went to like a public school. I lived in a small town. I grew up in a small town. I went to work straight from school. And you just taught to conform, like constantly taught to conform. Like I was watching a show the other day and it had Dolly Parton. It was like 9 to 5, right? And I was like, it's so true though. And I was singing working 4 till 2 because I start work at 4 a.m. but I finish at 2 p.m. That's
Yeah.
just I like that, so it works for me. But because I'm not conforming anymore. But when you've conformed for so long, it's not easy to stop conforming. So although like when I meet people for the first time, they're like, you're so busy, like why would you homeschool? Why would you take on all this extra? And I'm like, yeah, but in our life, like, although we are busy people, like, there's no doubt about that, but it never feels stressful or chaotic or, it's very easy for us. And I think that's what's really important is what works for you. And it's not easy to stop conforming. Like, I still conform. But I'm like, why? Why am I doing this? Why? Because society tells you it's wrong. Society tells me that I'm not supposed to be this successful and this happy doing what I'm doing. They're like, you should be burnt out and tired and cranky all the time and, not enjoying your life. And I'm just doing the complete opposite, which is really, it's a mind fuck at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is. So let's talk about that though. Like what have you found are the secrets to that and what has made it work really well for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's going to sound super cliche, but really understanding and knowing what you want is
Mhm.
really important because people will say that this is what they want, right? And it could be
Mhm.
because you're in a marriage or you live in a certain suburb or any of those types of things, and you think that's what you want. But what I would say is, does it set your soul on fire? Like, does it actually like make you genuinely like giddy happy inside? And when I ask most people, they're like, no. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, do you like your job? They're like, yeah, I love my job. I'm like, okay. So would you quit if you won the lotto? They're like, yes. I'm like, okay, so you don't love your job. Like, and this is what I don't quite understand. So like I think you've always got to say to yourself, like, if I won the lotto, would I live in this house? If like what would change for me? Like what type of life would I live differently? And it's not about the money, right? People will say, but if I had that much money, I would do those things. And I'm like, but it's not, because those fundamental things about you don't change. That is who you are. Like, we live on acreage 30, I think it's like 30 kilometers or 20 kilometers from Australia's third largest city.
Mhm.
And people, like all of my friends and family, were like, you're insane. Why do you want to live on acreage? And I was like, because I love camping. Like, I love the outdoors. I love going to the city and I love fine dining and I love all these amazing things. But at the core, like, I love just being able to go for a walk around my backyard. Like, that's who I am. And like, but that's not what all of my friends would have chose to do, right? So I'm going against that normal grain. And I think that's really important because it's not about them. They don't have to come and live in my house. They
Mhm.
don't, I literally, and I think what's really interesting for people is I went from this huge, beautiful, stunning mansion. It was like 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. It was absolutely amazing. Pillars, like beautiful home. But I hated it. It felt really cold and clinical to me. Like,
Mhm.
it didn't feel like a home. And now our home is like built in the 80s. It's super old, needs to be renovated. It's like 4 bedrooms, like it's not big enough for us at all. But I love it. Like, absolutely love it. I just, it feels like home. And I think that's the difference. Like I could have stayed in the mansion, but it wasn't me. It wasn't who I am.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say that's not who I am, right? As long as, because when you do that, you will be happier. People around you become happier. They might feel or say different things at the start, but when they can see that you're truly happy, they start to get on board. They're like, okay, you did do that for you. It's like, yes, I did.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I love that question of like, if whatever would change in your life, what would you do? Because it helps you look at your situation through a different lens, not just what do I have to do now? Am I
Yeah.
truly happy doing this? Or if I had the opportunity, I'd be doing something completely different.
And it's really interesting for me because like I play the same game with myself, right? Because although I have seven-figure businesses, like if I won $50 million tomorrow, does that change my life?
Right.
And I look at my house and I think the only thing I really want is a view, right? Like a beautiful view of like mountains type
Mhm.
thing. And so I told my husband that, and he was like, okay, well, why don't we go for a drive and find a house with a view? And I was like, okay, let's do that. So we went for this drive and we found these houses with the view. And he's like, we can sell our house and buy any of these houses if you wanted. And I was like, okay. Like, and I was really like playing into the idea. But then any of the houses with a view didn't have a usable backyard. Like it was all very like
Mm.
downhill, slopey. Because
Yeah.
they're on a hill, right?
Right.
Like, well, that's the
There's a reason
compromise.
they have the view.
Yeah, he was like, that's what you're compromising with. And I was like, I really have to think about this now. I'm not sure I want a view. So, but to have that thought and be like, hey, but that's what I want. He's like, okay, well, let's go for a drive and see if that's what you really want. Like, go
Right.
down the path. Is that really what you want? No, okay, that's fine. Come back, try something else. Like,
Yeah. No, and it's great to have a partner with, your husband that will do that with you and kind of walk through that life experience and that situational, like, is this actually what we want? Let's go explore. And maybe it's not. And it gives you more peace that where I'm at is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
yeah, exactly.
And I'm curious, do you see the same thing play out with your clients, or how does that relationship work out?
I see the same thing with my clients a lot. Like most of them come from corporate careers or still are working corporate careers while they're trying to become entrepreneurs. And again, it's really hard to stop conforming, especially if you're still having that career. Because I'm telling you not to conform, like all entrepreneurs are telling you not to conform, but then you're being
Right?
dragged every day to conform. So that's very confusing and conflicting in your brain. But it all just starts with being true to yourself. And I think people really struggle with that just in general. And you're not obviously going to be the same person you were when you're 15, 20, 30, 40, 50. Like you are going to change as a person. But I don't think the fundamental stuff changes unless you've been through something quite traumatic. And then you're just becoming a whole new you. But I see people on a journey of self-discovery all the time. And I think the other important thing to note is it doesn't end. Like you're constantly having to work on yourself and be the best version of you. Like I have seen psychologists and psychiatrists and wellness people and holistic people for probably almost 18 years now, even more than that, on a consistent basis. And what's really interesting to me is even sometimes when I think I've dealt with something, it comes back. And you've just got to keep working on it and showing up for yourself. I think that's the most important thing. Like, I don't show up every day for my clients. I show up every day for me. I don't show up for my daughter. I don't show up for my husband. I just show up for me. And I know that by doing that, everyone else around me is going to be okay. And I think that's another thing, like that to a lot of people, they'd be like, that's selfish. I'm like, yeah, well, you need to be selfish because nobody's looking out for you more than you can. Nobody's going to come and save you. Nobody comes to fix your problems. Like, even if you hire a coach, you're the one that does the work. Like, your coach can guide you and advise you and help you, give you strategies, all of those things. But you fix your problems. You're the only person that can fix your life.
Yeah. Well, and you're the one that has to stay consistent to it. So even if
Yeah.
they walk you through to that point of, okay, now I've gone through whatever hurdle, you're the one that carries it forward.
And I always tell my clients as well, like at any point, I'm like, if I tell you to do something and you don't agree with it or you don't like it or it doesn't sit well with you, you need to tell me that because at the end of the day, we're going to part ways at some point
Right.
and you're left with whatever we created. And if you hate what we've created, I haven't done my job.
Right.
So it's really important that if I tell you to do something, you're like, yeah, I went to do it and it turned my stomach. Like it made me feel really ick inside. Then we do something else. Like there's other options.
Yeah, for sure. And what are the, we'll say gaps, but that either you found yourself or that you see with clients in your journey to seven figures? Can you talk to us about what that looked like?
The gaps, I think it varies for every single person. Um, and it's definite, like it's mindset and understanding what that means for you and understanding what success is for you. Because there's going to be people that feel successful maybe once they've reached six figures, right? And that's all they need. Or it's a certain car, or it's that they don't have to work as many hours. Every person's version of success is so very, very, very different. So the first thing is understanding what you actually want to achieve so that you can create goals to get there. And I feel like that's where the gaps start to show. Because then depending on the goal, a lot of people they'll be like, I want to make seven figures, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. How much money are you making right now? I'm making four figures. I'm like, okay, that's great. That's a big jump. Like, 4 to 7, like that's not going to happen overnight. But we live in such a world of instant gratification that they're like, well, all the advertising says that I can be successful tomorrow. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. Go spend your money with those people because I don't think that you can. There's
Right.
very few people in this world that have the ability to turn a business around in 30 days and actually start making money off it. And then even if you do have the ability, do you want to commit the time that that's going to take? Because that's the other thing I find is people will say they want to do everything, but then when it comes to the crunch and I'm like, okay, well, you've got to turn Netflix off tonight and you've actually got to work.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I like watching Netflix. I'm like, okay, well then that's fine. You can watch Netflix. I'm all for that, but your timeline extends.
Right.
Like there's a sacrifice in everything we do. The benefit is you get to choose what that sacrifice is.
Absolutely. And how does mindset play into that as people are overcoming different hurdles in their journey?
I think mindset's different for everyone. If you've got mental health issues, there's a bigger part to play there. And I think it needs to be tackled on more fronts. But I think understanding mindset and making it work for you, because like I remember when I first started and somebody said, you just manifest like $1 million. Let's
Right.
just say, I can't remember what it exactly was, but it was like, you just manifest it. And I was like, no, you don't. You work hard and you get that thing. Like that,
Right.
who is telling people you just think about something and you get it? That is absolutely ludicrous. But then over time, I realized like that's not what people are saying. Like that's not what manifestation actually is. The idea behind manifestation is that you believe something so much so and change the language around what you're thinking about to the point that your mind starts to believe it. You're starting to trick your brain. And from a psychological perspective, that's fantastic because what we do as humans is our brains are wired to remember negative thoughts. So if somebody tells you you're beautiful 20 times, 20 different people tell you you're beautiful, and then one person says, "Oh, your bum doesn't look quite good in those jeans," right? All you're going to remember when you put those jeans on next time is, does my bum look funny in these jeans? Not the other 20 people that told you you're beautiful. And I think what people don't understand is mindset's about changing that thought, right? It's
Mhm.
about making sure we're focusing on the 20 people and not on the one, using different language around that. It's not hippy dippy, right? It's people think like mindset is just like this woo-woo thing. It's not. It's very, very clinical, psychological. But for some people, those holistic approach works a lot better because that's where they connect emotionally. Whereas other people, it's going to be a scientific approach that connects better. So you've got to find what works for you. There's so many different people out there. For me, I sit somewhere in the middle. Like I'm a bit woo-woo, but I'm very like logical and scientific as well. And my husband did science at university. So in our household, it's very science-based. But even I can see him, like he's the same. Like if you had have said 10 years ago, like, let's manifest, or like, let's talk about this, or let's say like that business is successful when it's not, because it's going to be, I know it's going to be. And he's like, no, we can't do that. And it's really hard for him even
Yeah.
still, because I'm like, every time you start to speak negatively about money surrounding one specific business, it flows on to everything else. I'm like, you literally diminish all the other success we've created because one business isn't doing well or as well as you'd expected. So it's important to be like, okay, but these are the goals. This is what we're achieving. And that's what we're working towards. Don't worry about what's happening right now. That's what we're working towards.
Yeah. And to that point, you can't do it alone, right? So how have you been able to build teams to, have success in all these different companies at the same time?
Yeah, so I think staff are the most important thing to me, because they literally run my life. And without them, I have nothing. Like, I genuinely have nothing. And I think that's what a lot of business owners don't understand. They build businesses for themselves and really keep themselves in the business. If I did that, I wouldn't be able to continue to buy and build businesses. So for me, it's really important that a business can run without me, and we have business managers in place in each of those sectors, and we just meet with them mostly. We still meet with all the staff. We have staff meetings and things like that. But it's about finding the right people and listening to them about what they need and what they want. A lot of people will say, I don't have the budget, right? I don't have the budget to employ someone. I hear that a lot. And I just think, but you don't have the budget to not employ someone. So, and it's about what they want. So we just bought on a contracts lawyer from Tesco over in the UK, and she's living in Australia now. And like, people were like, oh, she must be on like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And I was like, well, she's not. I think she's on like 70,000, which in Australia is a really, really, really low wage. Now, but she gets to work from home around her 3 children. Right. She was like, I've never had a job offer me that type of flexibility before. So for her, and she didn't want the stress, she didn't want to be, and she really wanted to be supported by another woman that understood motherhood, because it's tough being a working mum, right? Early mornings, late finishes, school drop-offs, all of these different things. And I create flexible working arrangements for as many of my staff as I can. And we employ a lot of mums. So for us, even with the cleaners and things like that, we allow them so that they can drop their kids at school, pick their kids up from school, those types of things, have different hours on school holidays, all of those types of things, because that's what's important to them. So it's not about money, right? You've got to find what's important to your staff. Some people want growth. Some people want to grow within the business. Some people might want a fancy car or just a car. They can't afford a car, whatever it is. You've really got to look at each person as individuals and work out what they want. And once they're happy, their productivity is so much higher anyway. And then you're getting more bang for your buck. Like, people just they employ based on a box. Again, you've got to not conform and be like, okay, just because people will say, well, we've done it for 50 years and it's worked. It hasn't worked. Mental health has never been so high. People are so burnt out. They're so tired. Like, I can't imagine getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to try and get all your kids ready for school, get them to the school, go to work all day. They go to after school care. You come back, you pick them up. You've got to get them to all their sports. You do dinner, like all of this stuff. And then you might see your husband for 30 minutes. And then it's like, okay, well, good night, everyone. Like, that's not living.
And another day.
Yeah. And every single day, like, that's not a life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's critical, all of it, but critical to ask your employees, like, what is important to you, right? Like, most employers don't ask other than, can you do this job? Do you have the skill set? Are you available these hours? Okay, go.
Yeah, I've got one staff member, and she runs the marketing agency for me, and she works like at night, which is really weird. Like, I'm such a morning person, but she works at night, and she always has. And she messaged me because she doesn't usually get online until after midday. And
Mhm.
but we have clients from all around the world. So for me, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm like, okay, well, as far as I'm concerned, they get a 24-hour service now because you
Yeah,
want to work at night, whatever.
yeah.
Um, but a client complained about not being able to reach her in the morning. I was like, she didn't finish till 6 a.m. Like, and
She
then
just
she was
went to
like,
bed.
yeah, literally, she had just gone to bed. And then,
Yeah.
like, do I need to change my working hours? Blah, 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 blah. Like, she was so upset about it. And I was like,
Oh,
no, no. I was like, if they have a problem, they can go and find another agency. Like, I'm not like, that's not okay. I'm like, my staff are like, literally, I have one child, but my staff to me are like my children. Without them, I have no businesses. I have nothing. And I think you need to recognize that as a business owner.
yeah. And that's very humbling to realize that and to like really own that concept and to then to function that way, right, with your team.
Yeah, well, and that's like people like you lead from the front. I'm like, no, I
Mhm.
don't. I just I know that I inspire them. I know that but it's because of how I am with them. I'm no better than they are. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like we might live in different houses, go on different holidays, have different cars, but at the end of the day, it's because I made certain choices in life that they all still have the option to make. But being an entrepreneur isn't for everyone. Not everybody wants to take the risk, and that's okay. Their hearts couldn't handle it. But for me, it's fun and enjoyable, and I love it. And if I can support as many people along the way, that's like, it's so humbling to me now. I'm like, I don't just support my life and my husband and my daughter. We support 30 people now
Yeah,
and looking to expand to over 50 in the next 12 months. So it's just a lot.
absolutely. And I'm curious to that point, but you've accomplished so much in your business and personally, but how do you define success? What does that look like to you?
Yeah, so success to me is about being fulfilled across all aspects of your life. It's not just one. So health is really important, family, business, my personal life, but also my relationship with my husband. So I don't put him into the family category. To me, family is like family, friends, children, like mom, dad, those types of people. Whereas for me, my relationship with him is standalone because like he is my best friend at the end of the day. But I think people underestimate marriage, and it's something that you do have to really work on and consider. Like, sure, things come easy, like being comfortable can come really easy, but it's about keeping the passion and spark alive, which I think if I talk to a lot of people, they're like, it's not hard work. I'm like, yeah, but okay, well, are you passionate? When was the last time you went on a date? When was the last time you did this? They're like, no, we don't do those things. I'm like, okay, so where's the effort then? Like, we put all the effort into our children, and we put all the effort into staying healthy and all the effort into having being successful, but then we forget about our relationship. So for me, it's about being happy in each of those parts of my life. Um, which is never, it's very interesting because there's a book by a lady called Marissa Peer called I Am Enough. And she talks about in that book, it's about just not feeling like you're enough, right? And people that are constantly trying to achieve things, like like celebrities, athletes, people like that, and they achieve these goals and then they still don't feel satisfied. So then they're like, why? And at the core of it, it's because they don't believe they're enough, right? So that's the
Mm.
message in the book. But I think it's really interesting because people look at me and say that I'm very successful. And I would say that in my family life, my health, my relationship, I am very successful. And I know I've achieved a lot in my professional career. Um, but I'm not done yet. So I'm not even
Mhm.
remotely done. Like I'm the person that wants to own the airplane. So when people are like, oh, you want to fly first class, I'm like, yeah, I've done that. I literally want to be like, oh, there's my plane. Like, bye.
Right.
And that's ultimately like the goal, whether it is an actual plane. It was so funny the other day. My husband was like, well, I want a super yacht. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I don't. It doesn't spark me inside. It's like, why would you not want a super yacht? And I was like, I don't know. I just feel restricted there. I was like, a plane, I feel like I can go anywhere. I feel like a super yacht, it's like takes still a long time. Like it's not like
You get one of each.
yeah, and it was really interesting. And then so now in my head, I'm like thinking about the plane. I'm like, what is it about the plane that really gets me? And I was like, is it just and I think at the end of the day, when I look at everything, every goal I've set, for me, it's about freedom of time. Because anytime you say to somebody that's dying or has just lost someone, they'll always tell you, I wish I had more time.
Yeah.
And time is something that you just can't buy, right? So I'm only 33, and my goal is to basically semi-retire by the time I'm 45. So, and if I think about all of those things really specifically, it's the time, right? So I'm sacrificing my 30s and 20s and 40s for the time that I get back after that. So for me, I'm like, the plane justifies a symbol of time. It means that I can go anywhere whenever I want, no matter what, and it doesn't matter about the cost. So it's all about the freedom. And maybe because I just think like birds are up in the sky flying around, I've associated a plane with that. I don't know. But for me, it's just complete freedom. Like people are like financial freedom, freedom of this. It's just for me, complete freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on the plane idea. I actually just sent to my husband. I was scrolling on a reel and saw like those Iron Man suits where people like those jetpack suits. I'm like, I totally want one of those. So sometimes it's the most absurd thing, and it's like that just looks so cool.
Yeah. But fun. And I think like we have kids and we get older and we stop having fun.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting when I talk to people because we still go to music festivals and nightclubs and casinos and galas and all of these things. Like every weekend we're doing something and we're having fun. Like we're still traveling and having the best time. Like, but you have 5 businesses. I'm like, yes, correct. Why does that mean you can't have fun? Like,
Right. And that's the key there is that the balance is there, the team is there, the infrastructure, like all those things that you put into place allows you to have that freedom and enjoy the fruits of your labor and all the things that you guys have done.
absolutely. And I find it really interesting because I don't work anywhere near as much as I used to, but that doesn't stop me from working on weekends or nights or things like that. Because for me, it's like, oh, I feel like working now. I'll just jump on and do some stuff. Whereas I think, and then when I'll tell people about, they're like, oh, you're working all the time. I'm like, well, I kind of am, but I'm kind of not at the same time. Like if I work till midday and I stop for lunch and I feel like not getting back on my computer, I don't get back on my computer. It's that
Right.
simple. I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's about having that flexibility and listening to what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. No, which is so important. And if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that doesn't matter where you came from. Like it genuinely does not matter your background, anything that's happened to you. You get to make the choice of who you are every single day. Doesn't matter what you've done in your past or anything that you think that is going to hold you back or people that might hold you back. You get to make that choice and you get to make that change. And that kindness, this small amount of kindness goes a really long way. I just don't think there's enough kindness in the world to each other. I think we're really horrible to each other a lot of the time, and we don't need to be. And I'm not really sure why we are, but kindness and yeah, just you can do anything you want. Like literally, I was raised by a single mum in a very small country town. We didn't have a lot. I've been through physical and sexual abuse, mental health. I've been in a psychiatric hospital. Like there's my story is very deep, and if I can do it, anyone can do it.
I love that. I love that. And it's so true. I mean, you've got so much more strength inside of you than all of us, than any of us think we do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we all get a choice. And it's not just one choice. Like if you make a million bad choices, that's okay. There's still more choices to make. Like if you're sitting listening, going like, I've been on a 3-day cocaine bender, like this is the end for me. You still get to make a choice tomorrow whether you decide to come back or not. Like that's your choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And where can people find you? How can they reach out to you and get to be part of your world?
Sure. So you can find me at billiesharp.com.au, but basically I live on Facebook more than anything else in this world. And the profile that you'll find, which is like a friend profile, that's the only profile I have. I don't have like a secret one for like friends and then a secret one for everyone else. I don't do that. It's just one profile. Um, and that's where I hang out. I have a free Facebook group, which is where I spend a lot of my time. But yeah, you mostly just find me on Facebook, just giving out advice and trying to help people and be kind, just spread kindness because, there's enough business in this world to go around. There's enough money in this world to go around. And I think why not just share it?
I love that. Awesome. Thank you, Billie. I appreciate it. We'll have all the links down below so people can come check you out. And thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you too. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I will see you on the next episode.